The diplomatic station hung in the darkness of space like a jewel made of metal and light. Inside its halls, representatives from dozens of worlds walked together, their voices mixing into a strange chorus of clicks, hums, and words. The Galactic Council had built this place 300 years ago as neutral ground, where all species could meet in peace. Daniel Riley checked his watch again and sighed. The reception was running long, and he knew his daughter would be getting restless. He looked across the crowded hall and spotted her easily. Emma sat at a small table near the viewing window, her legs swinging back and forth as she drew pictures in her notebook. She was 8 years old with dark braids and bright, curious eyes that seemed to find wonder in everything. He had not wanted to bring her on this trip. Earth was still new to the Council, barely 2 years into their probationary membership. Every interaction mattered, every moment was a test. But his wife was away on a research mission, and leaving Emma alone on Earth for 3 weeks was not an option. So she came with him, and so far she had been perfect, patient and quiet and endlessly fascinated by the aliens she saw. Lauren Hayes stood near the doorway in her security uniform, watching the crowd with trained eyes. She was the head of Earth's security detail for this mission, a former Marine with sharp instincts and little patience for Council politics. She caught Daniel's eye and nodded. Everything was secure. The reception dragged on another hour. Diplomats talked about trade agreements and territorial boundaries while servers carried trays of food that Daniel could not identify. Emma had finished her drawing and was now watching a group of Valerian children play with floating light spheres in the corner. She smiled at them, but they ignored her. Their parents had pulled them away when Emma approached earlier. Humans were still too new, too unknown, too primitive in the eyes of many Council members. Finally, the reception ended. Daniel gathered his things and went to collect Emma. She held up her drawing proudly. It showed the diplomatic station floating in space with stick figures of different aliens holding hands around it. "That's beautiful, sweetheart," Daniel said. "Ready to head back to our quarters?" "Can we walk through the garden section?" Emma asked. "Please?" "I saw it on the station map and it looked so pretty." Daniel hesitated. The garden sections were open to all species, but he knew Emma was tired and he was exhausted. Still, her eyes held such hope. "Just a quick walk," he said, then straight to bed. They left the reception hall with Lauren following 10 steps behind. The station's corridors were wide and curved, lit by soft blue light that mimicked twilight. Other delegates passed them heading toward their own quarters. A group of Zenthari warriors walked by, their scaled bodies towering over the humans. Each had 4 arms and eyes that glowed faintly orange. Emma stared up at them in wonder, but they did not look down. The public gardens occupied the station's eastern ring. Daniel and Emma entered through a wide archway into a space filled with plants from 100 worlds. Strange flowers bloomed in colors that Earth had no names for. Trees with crystalline leaves chimed softly in the artificial breeze. Water flowed through channels in the floor, feeding pools where fish-like creatures swam. Emma's eyes went wide. She walked slowly along the main path, careful not to touch anything. Daniel followed, letting her enjoy the moment. Lauren waited at the garden entrance, giving them space but keeping watch. They had walked for perhaps 10 minutes when Emma stopped suddenly. She pointed to a small creature sitting on a low branch near the path. It looked like a cross between a rabbit and a lizard, with soft fur and scales mixed together. It watched them with large violet eyes. "Dad, look," Emma whispered. "It's so cute." The creature tilted its head, then hopped down from the branch and scurried off the main path into a section marked with symbols Daniel could not read. Emma took a step toward it. "Emma, wait," Daniel said, but his datapad buzzed urgently. He glanced down at an incoming message marked Priority from Earth Command. He held up a hand to Emma. "Stay right there, sweetie. Don't move." He stepped a few feet away to read the message properly. It was just an update on tomorrow's schedule, nothing truly urgent. He tapped out a quick acknowledgement and looked up. Emma was gone. His heart jumped into his throat. "Emma?" He jogged along the path, looking left and right. There. He saw her small form disappearing through an ornate archway covered in flowering vines. The archway was marked with symbols he should have recognized as warning signs. "Emma, stop!" he called out, breaking into a run. But she had already gone through. Daniel rushed after her and found himself in a very different kind of garden. This space was quieter, more formal. Geometric patterns of white stone formed paths between carefully arranged plants. At the center stood a raised platform with meditation cushions. This was a sacred space, he realized with growing dread, a private sanctuary for council members. Emma stood about 20 feet ahead, holding the small creature gently in her arms. She was trying to place it back into what looked like its habitat, a small cave entrance built into an artificial rock formation. "I'm sorry, little one," she said softly to the animal. "You shouldn't be outside your home. It's not safe." "Emma," Daniel called out, trying to keep his voice calm. "Come here right now, please." She turned toward him with a smile, but the smile faded as she saw his expression. She started walking back to him, still holding the creature. That was when Ambassador Krelva emerged from behind a tall standing stone. The Zenthri was ancient and powerful, a high-ranking council member who had served for 70 years. His orange eyes blazed as he saw Emma standing in his meditation space. His forearms spread wide in anger, and his scaled crest rose along his spine. "Violation!" His voice boomed across the garden like thunder. "Desecration of sacred ground!" "Please," Daniel said, moving between them with his hands raised. She's just a child. She didn't know. She was only trying to help an animal that wandered from its habitat. "Ignorance is no excuse," Krelva said. His voice dropped to something cold and final. "Trespass in meditation sanctuaries carries one penalty." He raised his ceremonial staff, a rod of dark metal topped with a glowing crystal. Daniel lunged forward, but he was too far away. Everything happened in less than 2 seconds. Krelva brought the staff down in a swift arc. The crystal made contact with Emma's temple. The crack echoed through the silent garden. Emma dropped to the ground like a puppet with cut strings. The small creature she had been holding scurried away into the shadows. Her notebook fell open beside her, showing her drawing of aliens holding hands. Daniel reached her and fell to his knees. He gathered her into his arms, calling her name over and over. But her eyes stared at nothing and her chest did not rise. Blood trickled from where the staff had struck. Lauren burst into the garden with her weapon drawn, but it was already too late. Krelva stood over them, his staff still raised. He showed no emotion as he looked down at the dead human child. "Justice is served," he said. "Remove this body from sacred ground." The news reached Earth 18 hours after Emma Riley died. It came through official channels first, a cold diplomatic message that used words like incident and regrettable necessity and lawful enforcement. Daniel Riley sent a second message right behind it, this one to his wife Catherine, and it said only 3 words that shattered her world completely. Emma is gone. By the time Daniel's ship landed at the United Nations spaceport in Geneva, the entire planet knew. Every screen showed Emma's school photo, her bright smile and missing front tooth. News anchors spoke in hushed voices about the 8-year-old girl killed by an alien on a diplomatic station. Some called for war, others called for justice. Most just cried. President Marcus Webb stood at the landing pad as Daniel emerged from the ship carrying a small box. Inside were Emma's belongings, her notebook with drawings, her favorite stuffed bear, the clothes she had been wearing, clean now of blood, but folded with care by someone at the station who perhaps felt something close to shame. "Mr. Riley," Webb said quietly, "I am so deeply sorry." Daniel looked at him with hollow eyes. He had not slept since it happened. He had held his daughter's hand for the entire journey home, sitting beside the cold storage unit that held her body. He had not eaten or spoken to anyone. Now he stood on Earth soil and could not remember how to make his legs move forward. "They said it was legal." Daniel finally spoke. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. "They said she violated sacred ground and the penalty was death." They said this, and they meant it. They felt no guilt. Webb had no words that would help. He simply placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder and guided him toward the waiting car. Catherine Riley was already at the hospital where Emma's body had been taken. The president had cleared every obstacle to bring their daughter home quickly. Within the hour, Webb sat in the emergency session of the United Earth Security Council. 40 faces looked back at him through video screens, leaders from every nation and territory. The room crackled with anger barely held in check. "They murdered a child," the delegate from Brazil said, her voice shaking. "A child who was trying to help an animal. What kind of monsters are we dealing with?" "The Galactic Council has made their position clear," said the delegate from Japan. "They consider the matter closed. No apology. No acknowledgement of wrongdoing. They expect us to simply accept this." "Then we respond," growled the Russian delegate. "We show them Earth does not accept the murder of its children." "With what?" asked the delegate from South Africa. "We have 30 warships. The Council has thousands. We are infants playing at the adults' table." President Webb let them talk. He let the anger fill the room because he felt it too. He had held Emma Riley at a state function 2 months ago when she had visited with her father. She had asked him if aliens liked ice cream. Such an innocent question. Such pure hope in her eyes. His datapad buzzed. A message from General Patricia Morgan asking for a private meeting immediately. Webb called for a recess and left the council chamber. He found Morgan waiting in a secure conference room 3 floors down. She was not alone. Beside her stood a thin man with gray hair and tired eyes. Dr. Vincent Cole, though Webb had to search his memory for the name. Cole ran something classified, something even the president only had limited briefing on. "Mr. President," Morgan said, "we need to show you something. It changes everything." She activated the room's holo display. An image appeared showing a sleek warship unlike anything in Earth's current fleet. It was larger than their biggest carrier, and its hull seemed to shimmer with some kind of energy field. "What am I looking at?" Webb asked. "The future," Cole said quietly. "Or possibly the past. We have never been quite sure which." He explained while more images appeared. 22 years ago, a probe crashed in the Australian outback. Not debris, but an intact craft roughly the size of a school bus. The technology inside was centuries beyond anything humans had achieved. Most nations wanted to announce the finding to the world, but the United States, China, Russia, and the European Union formed a secret coalition. They decided to study it in secret. "We called it Project Guardian," Cole continued. "The probe's technology was incredible. We barely understood a fraction of it, but what we did understood changed everything. The key discovery was something the probe's creators had called quantum displacement. It was not faster than light travel. It was something else entirely. A way to fold space and step through it, appearing instantly anywhere in the galaxy with pinpoint accuracy. The mathematics were staggering. The energy requirements seemed impossible. It took us 15 years just to build a working prototype engine," Morgan said. "Another 5 to build ships around them. We now have a fleet of 50 vessels equipped with quantum displacement drives. They can go anywhere, instantly, without detection. They can pass through energy shields as if they don't exist." Webb stared at the hologram. "Why was I not told about this the moment I took office?" "Because every president is told," Cole said. "But only after their first year, and only if certain conditions are met. But given current circumstances, we felt you needed to know now." "The Council has no idea we have this capability," Morgan continued. "They think we are decades away from even basic faster-than-light travel. They see us as children playing with chemical rockets. They have no idea that we have been able to reach any point in their territory instantly for the past 3 years." Webb sat down heavily. His mind raced through implications. "You are saying we could strike them?" "We could strike anyone, anywhere, at any time," Morgan confirmed. "We have had the capability to end any threat to Earth for 3 years. We chose not to reveal it because we hoped to join the Council peacefully. We wanted to be partners, not feared. And now they have killed one of our children," Webb said. The room fell silent. Cole removed his glasses and cleaned them slowly. "The question before you, Mr. President, is what Earth does with this power. Do we use it for revenge? Do we use it to demand justice, or do we continue hiding it and accept what happened?" Webb thought of Daniel Riley's empty eyes. He thought of Catherine Riley screaming when they showed her Emma's body. He thought of a little girl who just wanted to return a lost animal to its home. "How fast can you prepare a demonstration?" he asked. Morgan smiled grimly. "The EDS Horizon is ready right now. Captain Benjamin Cross has been on standby since the incident. He can launch within the hour." "Then prepare him," Webb said. "But make this clear to Captain Cross. We are not going to war. We are going to show the Galactic Council exactly what humanity is capable of. We are going to make them understand that they did not just kill a child from some primitive species. They killed a child from a civilization that has been restraining itself out of hope for peace." He stood and looked at both of them. "And then we are going to demand justice for Emma Riley. Not revenge. Justice. There is a difference, and we will make them learn it. The Zenthari homeworld of Zenthara Prime turned below like a massive sphere of red deserts and silver cities. 3 moons hung in the sky above it, and a network of defense satellites circled in careful patterns. These satellites could detect anything approaching from 1,000,000 miles away. They could track every ship, every piece of debris, every possible threat. So when the EDS Horizon simply appeared 200 miles above the planet's capital city, every alarm in the defense network screamed at once. One moment the space was empty. The next moment a warship materialized as if it had always been there. No light trail, no energy signature warning of arrival. No time to react at all. Captain Benjamin Cross stood on the bridge of the horizon and watched the planet below. He was 42 years old with gray touching his temples and steady hands that never shook. He had been a Navy pilot before joining the Space Force, and he had flown missions in 3 different wars. But nothing in his career had prepared him for this moment. "All stations report ready, sir," said Lieutenant Maya Patel from the tactical station. She was young but brilliant, handpicked for this mission because of her calm under pressure. "Open all Galactic Council frequencies," Cross ordered. "Every channel they use. Diplomatic, military, emergency, all of them." The communications officer nodded and worked quickly. Within seconds, Cross's voice would broadcast across half the galaxy, heard by every council member simultaneously. "This is Captain Benjamin Cross of the Earth Defense Ship Horizon," he said clearly. 3 days ago, Ambassador Krelva of Zenthar killed an 8-year-old human child named Emma Riley. He struck her down with his staff for the crime of entering a meditation garden while trying to return a lost animal to its habitat. The Galactic Council has declared this action lawful and closed the matter. Earth does not accept this. On Zenthara Prime below, chaos erupted in the Defense Command Center. Ship scrambled to launch. Weapons charged. But the Horizon just hung there in space, making no aggressive moves. In the Galactic Council chambers on the diplomatic station, High Chancellor Vorin rose from his seat in alarm. The insectoid leader's mandibles clicked rapidly as he processed what he was hearing. Around him, other council members shouted over each other in a dozen languages. "How did they get past our sensors?" demanded a Valerian admiral. "Where did they come from?" asked a Krill representative. Ambassador Krelva sat in his chair with his forearms crossed, his scaled face showing contempt. "Empty threats from a primitive species," he said loudly. "They have 1 ship. 1. They think this frightens us?" On the Horizon's bridge, Cross checked his chronometer. "Jump in 5 seconds. Mark." The bridge crew braced themselves even though they did not need to. The quantum displacement drive made jumps that felt like nothing at all to those inside the ship. Maya counted down softly. 3, 2, 1, jump. The Horizon vanished from Zenthari space. It reappeared instantly above the Valerian homeworld, 30,000 light-years away. The trip that should have taken weeks happened in the span of a single heartbeat. Again, defense networks went insane with alerts. Again, a ship appeared where nothing had been seconds before. Cross broadcast again. "This is Captain Cross. I am now in orbit above Valara. I want the Council to understand something clearly. Emma Riley was 8 years old. She loved learning about other species. She made drawings of aliens as friends. She hoped one day to travel the stars and meet beings from other worlds." He paused and nodded to his communications officer, who began transmitting files. Across every council frequency, images appeared. Emma's school project about wanting peace with alien species, her drawings of humans and aliens holding hands, her essay about how she thought all intelligent beings could be friends if they just tried to understand each other. "She was trying to help an animal," Cross continued. "She meant no disrespect. She was a child doing what children do, showing kindness to a creature that needed help. And for this, she was killed." The Horizon jumped again. This time it appeared above the Krill homeworld with its vast frozen oceans, then above the methane clouds of Tharn, then near the twin suns that warmed the Meklar system. Each jump took only seconds. Each time Cross broadcast more of Emma's story. Her teachers spoke about what a kind student she had been. Her classmates shared memories of her helping them with homework. Her mother's voice, broken with grief, read from Emma's diary about her excitement at visiting the diplomatic station. By the 8th jump, panic had spread through the entire Galactic Council. This human ship was doing the impossible. It was appearing in their most secure orbital spaces without warning. It was passing through their defense shields like they were nothing at all. The technology should not exist. No species in the known galaxy had achieved this. "They could strike anywhere," Admiral Korth said in the emergency council session. The military commander's confidence had vanished. "Any planet, any station, any ship, we would have no warning. No defense." Chancellor Vorin's compound eyes focused on the display showing the Horizon's position. It now hung in space near the council station itself, having jumped there while they debated. "How long have they had this capability?" Vorin asked. No one had an answer. Cross's voice filled the council chambers again. "I know what you are thinking. You are wondering if we will attack. You are calculating your odds. You are afraid. Good. You should be. Because now you understand something important. For the past 3 years, Earth has possessed this technology. We could have appeared in your skies at any time. We could have made demands. We could have taken what we wanted by force. The silence in the council chambers was absolute. But we did not, Cross continued. We chose peace. We chose to approach you openly and honestly. We asked to join your council as partners. We respected your laws even though we had the power to ignore them. We hoped that you would see us as equals, as friends. On Zenthara Prime, Krelva watched the human ship on the displays with narrowed eyes. Around him, other Zenthari officials whispered nervously. Their entire military doctrine assumed they would see threats coming. This changed everything. And how did you respond to our good faith? Cross asked. You treated us as primitives. You looked down on us. You never bothered to learn about our culture or our children, and when one of our children made an innocent mistake, you killed her without hesitation or mercy. The Horizon's weapon systems came online. Every council military sensor detected the power surge. Across a dozen worlds, defense forces went to full alert. I could destroy Zenthara Prime right now, Cross said flatly. I could jump to point-blank range above your capital and fire before you could respond. I could do the same to every council homeworld in sequence. You could not stop me. You could not even slow me down. Krelva stood from his chair, his crest rising in anger. Is this a threat of war, human? No, Cross replied. This is a demand for justice. Earth does not want war. We never did. But we will not accept the murder of our children being called lawful. We will not accept being treated as lesser beings by those who do not even understand us. He transmitted one final image. Emma Riley's drawing of the diplomatic station with stick figures of different species holding hands around it. At the bottom, in a child's handwriting, were the words, I hope we can all be friends. This is what you killed, Cross said quietly. A child who dreamed of friendship across the stars. Now Earth demands that the Galactic Council do 3 things. First, conduct an independent investigation into Emma Riley's death. Second, hold a formal trial with neutral judges. Third, acknowledge that your laws failed to account for an innocent child's actions and that changes must be made. Chancellor Vorn looked around at the other council members. Fear showed clearly on every face, regardless of species. The humans had the power to destroy them all, yet they were asking only for justice. And if we refuse? Vorn asked. The Horizon's weapons powered down. Cross's final words were measured in calm. Then the galaxy will learn that the Galactic Council is not an organization of laws and justice, but simply another empire that rules by force and arrogance. And Earth will respond accordingly. You have 48 hours to decide. A Horizon vanished from sensor range, jumping to somewhere unknown. In the council chambers, no one spoke for a long time. The tribunal station floated in neutral space far from any star system. It was ancient, built by the Keeper species thousands of years ago as a place where disputes between civilizations could be resolved without bias. The walls were made of dark stone that seemed to absorb light, and the central chamber was vast and circular with seating arranged in rings that rose toward the ceiling. Judge Magistrate Thelvor sat at the highest point looking down at the proceedings below. He was old even by Keeper standards, his skin like weathered granite and his eyes holding the weight of centuries. He had overseen conflicts between empires and judged cases that shaped galactic history, but never had he seen the council chambers so full, so tense with anticipation. Every council member species had sent representatives. News feeds from 100 worlds broadcast the trial live. And, sitting in the section reserved for victims' families, Daniel Riley waited with his hands folded in his lap. He looked thin and tired. The past 3 weeks had aged him years. His wife Catherine sat beside him, her eyes red from crying that never seemed to stop. Behind them sat a delegation from Earth, including President Webb and General Morgan. The humans were outnumbered 1,000 to 1 in this station, but no one looked at them with contempt anymore. Fear had replaced contempt. Ambassador Krelva stood in the defendant's circle at the chamber's center. His forearms were bound with ceremonial chains, though everyone knew they were symbolic. The Zenthari warrior could break them easily if he wished. His orange eyes surveyed the crowd without emotion. This tribunal will now begin, Thelvor's voice rumbled through the chamber. Ambassador Krelva of Zenthar, you are charged with negligent homicide in the death of Emma Catherine Riley, human child aged 8 standard years. How do you answer? Krelva's crest rose high. I acknowledge that I struck the child and that she died, but I committed no crime. She violated sacred ground. My actions were lawful under Zenthari custom and council precedent. I answer not guilty. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Thelvor raised one massive hand for silence. We shall examine the circumstances, the magistrate said. Present the evidence. The prosecution began. They showed recordings from the garden's security system. The images played on holographic displays visible to everyone. Emma appeared on the path following the small creature, but she looked so tiny and harmless in her blue dress, with her braided hair bouncing as she walked. There was no sound, but her expression showed wonder and concern for the animal. The recording showed her entering the sacred space. She picked up the creature gently, cradling it in her arms. She spoke to it, though the security system captured no audio from that area. Then she walked toward the habitat entrance, clearly trying to return the animal to where it belonged. Krelva appeared in the frame. His body language showed rage. Emma turned toward him with the creature still in her arms. She took a step back. Her mouth formed words that might have been an apology. Then Krelva raised his staff and struck her. The image froze at the moment of impact. Catherine Riley made a sound like a wounded animal and turned her face away. Daniel stared at the screen with empty eyes. He had watched this recording 50 times already, and each time he hoped to see something different. Each time the outcome was the same. The child was attempting to return a lost animal to its habitat, the prosecutor said. She was a Valerian named Selaren, chosen for her reputation of fairness. She had no understanding of sacred ground protocols. She was 8 years old and had been on the station for less than 1 week. The signage marking the sacred area was in council standard language, which she could not yet read. Krelva's defense attorney stood. He was Zenthari as well, a lawyer named Theckrel with silver scales. The lack of understanding changes nothing. Sacred ground is sacred ground. The penalties are clearly established. Ambassador Krelva was within his rights and duties to enforce them. By killing a child? Selleran demanded. By upholding law? Thurl countered. Thelver called for the next evidence. Dr. Helen Foster took the witness platform. She was a xenopsychologist from Earth, an expert in child development across species. She had studied alien cognition for 20 years and had written papers that even the council respected. Please explain human-child psychology at age 8, Thelver instructed. Dr. Foster spoke clearly. At 8 years old, human children are still developing their understanding of complex social rules. They understand basic concepts of right and wrong, but nuance escapes them. They act on impulse and emotion more than logic. Emma Riley saw an animal in distress and responded with instinct to help it. This is normal for human children of her age. It shows empathy, not disrespect. She showed brain scans and development charts. She explained how human children learned and how their decision-making processes worked. The council members listened with attention they had never given to human psychology before. Could Emma Riley have understood that she was committing a violation worthy of death? Selleran asked. Absolutely not, Dr. Foster said firmly. Even if someone had explained the rule to her in advance, an 8-year-old would not fully grasp the severity. She would think perhaps she might get in trouble, receive a scolding, maybe lose privileges. Death would not enter her calculation because children that age have not fully internalized their own mortality yet. Krelva spoke without permission. Ignorance of law is no excuse. Thelver fixed him with an ancient stare. You will speak only when addressed, Ambassador. The trial continued for hours. They called more witnesses. Lauren Hayes testified about station security protocols and how no one had stopped Emma from entering the garden complex. Station officials testified that the sacred area warning signs were indeed only in council standard language, with no pictographic or universal symbols. Then Daniel Riley was called to testify. He walked to the witness platform slowly. He had not wanted to speak, but the prosecutor insisted. His testimony was important. He stood before thousands of beings from across the galaxy and felt very small. Tell us about your daughter, Silver said gently. Daniel's voice cracked. Emma was kind. That was the first thing anyone noticed about her. She helped other kids at school who struggled. She brought home injured birds and begged me to help them heal. She wanted to be a veterinarian when she grew up, or maybe a diplomat like me. She said she wanted to help humans and aliens understand each other. He pulled out a worn notebook from his jacket, Emma's notebook. He opened it to a page showing a drawing of a Zenthari child and a human child playing together. She made this 2 days before she died, Daniel said. She asked me what Zenthari children like to play. She wanted to make friends. She saw Ambassador Krelva in the hallways and thought he looked strong and brave. She said maybe his children would like to draw with her. Silence filled the vast chamber. Krelva stared at the drawing, and for the first time, something flickered in his orange eyes. She was trying to return an animal because she thought it was lost and scared, Daniel continued. That was who my daughter was. She saw something suffering and she helped. And for that kindness, she was killed. The crystal stood to cross-examine. Did you not have responsibility to teach your daughter council protocols? Daniel's jaw tightened. She was 8. We had been on the station for 6 days. I was teaching her, slowly as appropriate for a child. The council made no provisions for families, no educational materials for children, no simplified guides. You built a society that assumed all member species came as adults. President Webb was called next. He testified about Earth's restraint and revealed information that made the entire council gasp. Earth had detected 47 hostile incursions into their territory over the past century. Probes, scouts, even attempted invasions by species outside the council. Each time Earth had responded with warnings and defensive measures only. We could have revealed our quantum displacement technology at any point, Webb said. We could have used it as leverage or threat. We chose not to because we believed in the Council's stated principles of peaceful cooperation. And Thelver leaned forward. Why develop such weapons if you sought peace? Because we are not fools, Webb replied. We hoped for friendship, but we prepared for reality. We watched how the Council treated newer members, how you dismissed concerns from species you considered primitive. We saw that power commanded respect where goodwill did not. So we built the power, and then we waited to see if goodwill could work first. The final testimony came from an unexpected source. A young Zenthari named Kethva approached the witness platform. She was a teacher from Zenthara Prime who worked with children. I must speak truth, she said, her voice trembling. I have studied the human child's actions. I have shown the recordings to my students. They are horrified. Even Zenthari children understand that Emma Riley meant no harm. They ask me why Ambassador Krelva did not simply remove her from the sacred ground. They ask why death was necessary for a child's innocent mistake. She looked directly at Krelva. You have brought shame upon our people. The galaxy now sees us as child killers. This is not the honor of Zenthar. This is not the warrior code I teach my students. Krelva's scales darkened with emotion, but he said nothing. Thelver called for final statements. The chamber grew quiet. Ambassador Krelva, the magistrate said, Have you anything to say? The Zenthari stood tall in his chains. For a long moment he was silent. Then he spoke, and his voice carried less certainty than before. I acted according to law. But I see now that the law was incomplete. It did not account for children. It did not account for innocent ignorance. It did not account for a young being trying to do kindness. He looked at Daniel Riley. I am sorry for your loss. Thelver deliberated for 3 hours while the chamber waited in silence. When he returned, his ancient face was grave. This tribunal finds Ambassador Krelva guilty of negligent homicide. While his actions were technically lawful under existing protocol, the law itself was unjust and failed to account for the circumstances. He will be stripped of his ambassadorial rank and exiled from council service. The Zenthari delegation erupted in protest, but Thelvor's voice boomed over them. Furthermore, the Galactic Council itself bears responsibility. Your arrogance and failure to understand your own member species enabled this tragedy. Emma Riley should never have been able to enter that space without clear warning. The law should never have mandated death for such an infraction. You will reform these failures, or you will lose the moral authority to govern. Daniel Riley closed his eyes and felt tears run down his face. It was not enough. Nothing would bring Emma back, but it was justice, and perhaps that was all he could ask for. 6 months passed like water flowing around stones, leaving permanent marks even as time moved forward. The Galactic Council chambers looked different now. Where rigid protocol once ruled every interaction, small changes had appeared that spoke to larger shifts beneath the surface. Daniel Riley walked through the diplomatic station's corridors with a satchel over his shoulder. He no longer wore the formal diplomatic uniform. Instead, he dressed simply in gray pants and a comfortable blue shirt. His badge identified him as Special Ambassador for Cultural Exchange, a position created specifically for him by unanimous council vote. He had not wanted the job at first. Catherine had returned to Earth after the trial, unable to bear being in space anymore, but Daniel found he could not leave. Emma had loved this place despite everything. She had died trying to help an animal, trying to do something good. Walking away felt like abandoning what she represented, so he stayed. And slowly, day by day, he built something in her memory. The first stop on his morning rounds was the new education center. The building occupied an entire deck of the station with classrooms and play areas designed for children of every member species. Bright colors covered the walls. The signs were written in 20 different languages, plus pictographic symbols that any child could understand. Daniel entered the main playroom and smiled. 30 children from a dozen worlds played together under the watchful eyes of specially trained educators. A small Valerian child with blue fur chased a human boy around a climbing structure. A krill youngling with tentacles helped a Mechler child stack blocks with her clawed hands. In the corner, a tiny Zenthar sat at a table covered with drawing materials. His name was Pip. He was 7 years old, with emerald green scales and bright, curious eyes. 6 months ago, he had been the son of Ambassador Kralva, living a privileged life on Zenthara Prime. Now he lived here on the station with his mother, while his father served his exile on a remote mining colony. Daniel walked over and sat down across from Pip. The young Zenthari looked up nervously. "Hello, Pip," Daniel said gently. "What are you drawing today?" Pip's small clawed hands clutched a crayon. "I am drawing the station, but I am not very good at it." May I see?" Pip hesitated, then pushed the paper across the table. The drawing showed the station floating in space, with stick figures visible through windows. Daniel recognized the style immediately. His throat tightened. "This is wonderful," he said honestly. "Emma used to draw like this. She would be happy to know someone else sees the station the same way she did." Pip's eyes filled with tears. "I am sorry about what my father did. Everyone says I should be sorry. But I do not understand why he did it. The teachers here say Emma was trying to help an animal. My father always told me that helping others was honorable." Daniel reached across the table and placed his hand near Pip's, not touching but close. "Your father made a terrible mistake. But his mistakes are not your mistakes. You are not responsible for what he did. Other Zenthari children say I bring shame to our people. Then those children are wrong," Daniel said firmly. "Listen to me, Pip. I knew Emma very well. She was my daughter, and I loved her more than anything. And I can tell you exactly what she would think of you." Pip looked up with desperate hope. Daniel pulled out his satchel and removed a plastic sleeve protecting one of Emma's drawings. It showed a human girl and a Zenthari child holding hands. Above them were stars and moons. At the bottom, Emma had written in her careful child's handwriting, "Friends from different worlds." "She made this a week before she died," Daniel said. "She told me she hoped to meet Zenthari children and become friends with them. She thought your people were fascinating and brave. She would have wanted to know you, Pip." The young Zenthari stared at the drawing. His small body shook as he tried not to cry. "But I am the son of the one who killed her, and that makes you the perfect person to help make sure nothing like that ever happens again," Daniel said. He slid the drawing across the table. "This is for you. Keep it. Remember that Emma believed in friendship across the stars. She believed beings from different worlds could understand each other. Help prove she was right." Pip took the drawing with trembling hands and held it like a precious treasure. Daniel stayed at the education center another hour, talking with teachers and observing the children. This was the first real accomplishment of what had been officially named the Emma Riley Initiative for Interspecies Youth Protection. The council had established it with full funding and authority to prevent tragedies like Emma's death from ever happening again. But the initiative did more than just protect children. It taught them. Every child who came to the station now spent time in cross-cultural classes. They learned about different species, different customs, different ways of thinking. They played together and formed friendships that would shape the galaxy's future. His next stop was the council floor itself. President Webb had traveled from Earth for an important announcement, and Daniel wanted to be there. The council chambers were packed. Chancellor Vorn stood at the central podium with Webb beside him. The insectoid leader's mandibles clicked as he addressed the assembly. 6 months ago, this council faced a crisis of conscience, Vorn said. The death of Emma Riley forced us to examine ourselves and admit our failures. We were arrogant. We assumed our ways were the only ways. We built systems that did not account for the diversity we claimed to celebrate. He gestured to Webb. Today we take another step toward healing that wound. President Webb will explain. Webb stepped forward and activated a holographic display. It showed one of Earth's quantum displacement ships, but modified. The weapon systems had been removed and replaced with medical facilities and rescue equipment. Earth is sharing quantum displacement technology with the Galactic Council, Webb announced. Not for weapons. Not for military advantage, but for humanitarian aid. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Several council members stood in shock. Webb continued calmly. We are building a fleet of rapid response medical ships. They will be able to reach any emergency anywhere in council space within minutes. Natural disasters, medical epidemics, stranded ships, any crisis that requires immediate help. The ships will be crewed by personnel from all member species and will serve everyone equally. He paused, and his voice softened. Emma Riley died because of a failure to understand each other. But her death also showed us what humanity has always believed, that our differences can make us stronger if we choose cooperation over fear. That advanced technology means nothing if we do not use it to help others. That a child's hope for friendship is worth more than 1,000 warships. The first of these ships launched 2 weeks later. It was named the Emma Riley, and Daniel stood with Catherine at the ceremony. His wife had returned to Earth after the trial, but she came back for this. She placed her hand on the ship's hull and whispered goodbye to their daughter one more time. The ship's first mission came within hours. A mining accident on a krill colony left 60 workers trapped beneath ice. The Emma Riley jumped to the scene instantly, arriving before any conventional rescue ship could launch. All 60 workers survived. The krill government sent Earth a formal message of gratitude and friendship. More ships followed. The Emma Riley class became the most desired posting in the entire Council fleet. Officers competed for the chance to serve aboard vessels dedicated to saving lives across species boundaries. Daniel returned to his quarters late that night and found a message waiting. It was from Krelva, transmitted from his exile colony. Daniel almost deleted it without reading, but something made him hesitate. The message was brief. I have heard about the ships. I have heard about the initiative. I have heard that you gave my son one of Emma's drawings. I do not deserve your kindness, but I am grateful for it. My son writes to me about the friends he has made and the things he is learning. He tells me he wants to help build the peaceful galaxy Emma believed in. I wish I had understood before what I destroyed. I can never make amends, but I will spend my remaining years trying to teach others what I learned too late. Daniel read it twice, then saved it in his personal files. Forgiveness was complicated. He would never stop missing Emma. The pain never really faded. But perhaps Krelva's change of heart meant Emma's death had not been completely meaningless. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, ships bearing his daughter's name were jumping through space to help beings in need. And where children of different species were learning to see each other as friends instead of strangers. Somewhere the galaxy was becoming a little bit closer to what Emma had imagined in her drawings. On his desk sat the memorial holo that would be installed in the council chambers next week. It showed Emma's drawing of beings from different worlds holding hands around the diplomatic station. Beneath it, a plaque bore her name and a simple message. Emma Catherine Riley, who believed friendship could cross the stars, who died helping another. Who taught the galaxy that true strength lies in compassion? Daniel touched the holo gently, making the image shimmer. We did it, sweetheart, he whispered. Not the way we hoped, but we did it. The galaxy is listening now. They understand now. And it is because of you. Outside his window, another Emma Riley-class ship jumped away to respond to a distress call. Its quantum drive left only a brief shimmer of light, like a shooting star racing to grant a wish. In the education center, Pip carefully placed Emma's drawing in a protective frame above his bed. Tomorrow he would show his new friends. Tomorrow he would tell them about the human girl who believed beings from different worlds could be friends. Tomorrow he would take one more small step toward making her dream real. And across the galaxy, thousands of beings who had watched the trial, who had heard Emma's story, who had seen what humanity chose to do with its power, looked at the stars a little differently. They saw not just distant suns, but possible connections. Not just alien worlds, but potential friends. Emma Riley never got to see the galaxy she dreamed of. But the galaxy was slowly becoming the place she imagined, shaped by the memory of a child who tried to help a lost animal and believed the best of everyone she met. It was not the ending anyone wanted. But it was perhaps the ending Emma would have chosen. If endings had to come, a galaxy learning to be kinder, a galaxy learning to be better, a galaxy learning that even the smallest act of compassion could change everything. And in the quiet of his quarters, Daniel Riley finally allowed himself to smile through his tears.